Hello and welcome! Silrace here with Lawbreakers impression video. As in, I played the Lawbreakers alpha over the weekend. Well, I didn't play the entire weekend. I put in a few hours here and there on it. And then I tried to play again, and I assumed there were some server issues because I couldn't find a single match for a bit. So I stopped trying. My connection was doing fine, tried out a couple things, everything else worked fine, I just couldn't find a match. So I assumed there was some kind of server issue, or people just stopped playing entirely. Anyway. Past all of that, let's talk about the actual Lawbreakers alpha test. I like that. Like, I like fast movement shooters in general. Like, I have always been, when it comes to shooters, there are two things I really like, and they are polar opposites in this fashion, like, which is kind of amusing when I'm talking about shooters to people. I love real fast movement speeds, or I love real slow, very deliberate movement speeds. Time to kill goes the same way for me. Either it has to be extremely fast, or then it has to be really slow and deliberate. So I don't usually like the middle ground very much. I want one or the other end. And while Lawbreakers works a little bit into the middle ground, it does have that fast movement speed. Well, for the most part, which I really enjoy. I really do enjoy that. And the differences with the, like, low gravity area and the, you know, actual run on the ground thing is kind of nifty. Personally, I would love to see more low gravity areas on the maps, or that the most of, like, possibly give us an entire map which is nothing but the low gravity. Because that could really shake up the gameplay, and that's where I personally feel this game brings out its strengths. In that low gravity, very different playstyle than what you have in most traditional shooters out there. My first shooter which I fell in love with back in the day was Tribes, and it shows with the kind of shooters I still enjoy playing. Very rapid movement. I like that. And that's that essentially. I liked it. Okay, let's talk a little bit more detail, alright? Let's talk about the things I liked and the things I disliked. But overall, like I mentioned, I really like this. So, it has hero classes. This is one of the things I'm on the fence of whether I like or dislike. Like, when you make this whole class distinction with abilities, like hero classes, you have to make those abilities fairly powerful, otherwise it's meaningless, right? Otherwise those things are meaningless. Whereas if everybody had, like, guns, like if you had just different guns but no ability differences, then you could, like, balance just the guns out. But now you have to also consider the abilities. And that means things like, for example, certain abilities have to be powerful, so you come into situations where your abilities are on cooldown, you have used them, and the other guy has all of his ability cooldowns, and he's willing to burn all of them to kill you, and then you have very little chance of actually living. Because the other guy essentially has the cooldown advantage. So, this is one of the aspects I am really on the fence of, like, okay, do I actually like this in this game, or do I not? Because if all the hero abilities were removed and were replaced by different guns, like all the classes got like a secondary fire for their weapons, for example, and just those were balanced, then I could see this being quite interesting. But also, I have nothing really against the current system. I haven't played it enough to really tell which abilities are more powerful than anybody else's, possibly. So there is that.
Your side is charging.
There is that. Now, let's move on to the movement. The whole firing behind you is kind of cute. Especially like it for the like, you know, traversing the low gravity zones rapidly. That sort of aspect is kind of nice and nifty. I kind of like it. It's a neat idea. And it can net you some very silly, very funny kills. Because it's like you're just randomly shooting behind you and somebody runs around or flies around behind you and gets killed in the process. It's amusing, to say the least. And so there is that. Game has very fast time to kill. Options menu was fairly nice for an alpha. You had a bunch of options, including rebindable keys, because any game without rebindable keys, I am just not touching that anyway. And if that had been the case, I would probably have played around just to get a little bit of footage and then just bash the hell out of this game for not having rebindable keys in an alpha test. Alright? Anyway. Mostly very good impressions on the alpha. Like, what gameplay I had, I didn't have lag, I didn't have, you know, the game crashing on me, all the bugs, other than possibly that connection issue thing. So, yeah, there was that. Let me talk about briefly some interesting design decisions. I'll show you one here, because something I really liked. Alright, so, here we go. I am playing the assassin class and I was testing out, like seriously just testing out, the grappling rope she has. Kind of a grappling hook rope combination thing. Now, pay attention to the middle of the crosshairs. There is those two, I don't know, blade slash looking like crosshairs. In middle of them happens to come like a sort of a V shape, like a small V shape. And that shows up whenever you are looking at a wall, at a surface you can grapple to. If it doesn't exist, you are too far from a grapple surface. Like here, you can see that, right? It doesn't exist because I'm too far. Then when I look at something which I can grapple to move closer, it actually appears. That is the sort of small, little design decisions, like which developers go out of their way. Okay, how do we make this easy for players to, you know, understand what is the reach of this thing and so on. That is brilliant. I love this kind of stuff where developers out there actually think this stuff through. I really love that. Obviously, personally, I would love if it was a little bit more visible, a little bit bigger of an icon. Maybe make it a diamond shaped or a round thing. Another problem obviously is what I personally call and consider the lobby problem, which happens with many games these days which have an open lobby people can drop in and out of. You can have a lobby run for minutes on end because somebody joins, realizes that, waits a couple seconds and doesn't instantly find a match, so they drop out to try to get to a different lobby. And then you have that happening over and over until you finally have a couple of people who decide to stick around for a minute, you know, to actually wait for a match to happen, instead of having the, you know, impatience spilling out of their whatever jar they keep it on, you know, under the lid. Normally it just spills out and then they, you know, keep spamming back and forth between the lobbies to try and find a match. Unfortunately, this might also be an issue for this game come its release, the whole lobby problem. So, final thoughts to the end of the video here. I do like what I saw here. I do like what I played here. Overall, I did. Like I mentioned, there are a couple things I am on the fence about. For example, the whole, like, did this need to be a hero shooter? I'm not so sure it needed to. But that's how they went about it. And, okay, sure, this is their design decision. I'm okay with it, right? The different classes are different enough that they really are different. So if you get good at one, you might not be so good at the other. It doesn't directly seem to translate because the weaponry they use are so different, the movement speeds are different. So I really like that. And while I might not be the best at this kind of a shooter, it's right up my alley as a fast movement shooter. I look forward to playing this on release. So thank you very much for watching my impressions on the Lawbreakers Alpha. You got to see some gameplay if you missed it and got to hear my thoughts. I am, well, waiting for the release of this thing. Eventual release. If it's as good as this alpha seems to be so far, then this hopefully will be a successful game.
Enemy dropped the battery.